Hey Cubers, welcome to MCROcube. My name is Mathias Christiansen. Today I will be clarifying an important architecture of the future of artificial intelligence. This is known as the Nature Foundation model, which is a model that can generate high accurate natural environments for digital evolution. Join me in this video podcast today to know and learn how this architecture is made and how this can revolutionize the future of artificial intelligence. The beauty of nature is based on millions of sequences and laws for how to behave. It strikes all the way up in the top of the mountains and down to the depths of the ocean. Everything on this planet is based on the foundation of nature. Both civilizations and plants, and even life itself, is nature. Even evolution is based on the foundation of nature. But what does it take to create a system that is able to understand the foundation of nature, how nature actually functions? We need to create a multimedia system that is able to use 100 or more camera inputs at once to understand how different kinds of things influence each other. And this model do we need to feed a bunch of nature data to be able to make that model understand how nature actually functions. When we already have too much of addiction to systems and that they're already taking too much overhand of our life and destroying the environment around us, why then go for even more? Why do we need AIs that are natural correct to be able to create robotic intelligence? These kind of entities understand the foundation of nature, and they understand how we can improve nature itself. If we get one model that is large enough to be able to understand how nature actually functions, can we use that model to actually know how we actually make more safe decisions as a human species? World models is actually not enough. They're just video simulators, but they actually don't simulate in the third dimension. It feels like the third dimension, but it's actually just a two-dimensional video that is filming all the time. But what if we could make something even deeper than that? What if we could create new ways as a species to learn? New ways to interact with physical technology? New ways to use systems like never before? And that is what the Nature Foundation model is about. Making new ways for human species to use scientific technology. But try to think about this. What if we could make the user the god of a system, the user to the creator of a simulation, that you can decide exactly what landscapes shall exist and what entities shall be placed inside of this simulation? That is the powerful thing with the Nature Foundation model, that we are finally making you get an experience that you never have gotten before. We want to make you feel like a god. But what is actually a god? A god is a thing that decides over something smaller or bigger. It's able to decide over what exactly shall happen inside of a reality or simulation. And that is the goal behind this concept. To make you the god of this experience. I've already tried to explain this in my second to last video podcast on this channel about the large engine model. But let me try to explain it for once again. So a world model is a video simulator that simulates the world around it. It understands how it is to be in a world. So it uses frequencies of videos to be able to simulate the next video frame. A large language model uses words to simulate the next word frame. So if you want to play Minecraft but you don't have the Minecraft game engine installed, you can now just use this world models like Genie 3 or Mirage 2 to be able to simulate Minecraft gameplay data. So you can just get such a world model to be able to simulate Minecraft gameplay data because it has been trained on thousands if not millions of gameplay data inside of Minecraft. So nowadays we're actually able to replace code with words to be able to get new ways like never before to get video games. So this model has actually been trained on frequencies of videos. 5-sec video, 10-sec video, 15-sec video, 20-sec video, and this has been separated into different kinds of parts. So when I've generated the 5-sec video, it then uses its knowledge from the 10-sec video to predict how the 10-sec video will look like. When I've generated the 10-sec video, we'll use the 15-sec video to be able to know and realize how that looked like. And that is exactly how a world model actually functions. So with world models, are you able to use your arrows on your keyboard to be able to walk around in this simulation, just as how you walk around in a video game? What if we could train a world model on game engines to be able to generate actual code bases? That is what this next idea is about. Moving on from just code to a large engine model that is able to generate actual useful code. So a world model is a simulator, a large language model is a simulator, but a large engine model is a diffusionizer that is able to diffusionize a game, a video game, not just the video around it, but actually also the code. So that is what this next idea is about, making a game engine or something universal intelligent that is able to create complex video games in just under 1 hour. Try to think about this. You are having the game Roblox, but what if you want to get your complete own simulation game or tycoon game, obby game, or whatever you can think of? Roblox is a really universal game, but you never have the chance to actually generate your own game. What if you just could generate a game with artificial intelligence in Roblox that is able to generate any game that you can think about? That is that's powerful with the large engine model, that we now can generate experiences, not just words, but actual code. We have already tried to do this with large language models that are actually vibe coding, but they're not powerful enough. They don't understand the world behind video games, and that is why we need to use a large world model to be able to understand how large engine model should actually function. And when we have done this idea, then we're finally coming to large environment. A large environment model is a thing that generates 3-dimensional video. It don't just generate worlds in the second dimension, it generates them in the third dimension. And that is what this model is about. Game engines is already 3-dimensional. They're generating the 3-dimensional experience with code. Code is the foundation of the third dimension. But what if we could use large engine model and get them to train them on 3-dimensional video? What if we don't just train video models on video that is 2-dimensional, but what if we actually train them on the map from video games? How the map from video games actually evolve over time. So we use this 3-dimensional map method to be able to create large environmental model. We can also use a method called camera methods, where we input 100 different kinds of camera inputs into a server, and then when we find out how these cameras actually behave on each other, diffusionize that to the game engine, to the environmental engine, and then we get an environment from actually what input the cameras have actually gotten. And when we are able to generate environments, and when we use the environments to predict an ecosystem or a nature foundation model, that is exactly where it starts to become interesting. We need an environmental computer to be able to scan the foundation of nature. An environmental computer is a computer with an environmental model and a camera. This camera can then enhance the 2-dimensional output to 3-dimensional output. And we look at how this 3-dimensional output behave over time. So the first 5 sec of the 3-dimensional output predicts the next 5 sec, and that 5 sec predicts the next 5 sec, just like large language models and large world models. So we're using this prediction method to be able to predict nature itself. Look at this image here. It's way too complex. There are way too many birds. And how would even a world model predict something like this? That is why we need a nature foundation model to understand how ecosystem functions, how this civilization of birds actually will fly together. We need a model that is able to predict the relationships between these birds. If two birds fly into each other, then will both fall down, not just the one that flew into the other one. And that is where the nature foundation model comes into play. It is able to enhance other outputs to make them more accurate. We can use a nature foundation model to enhance other generators, like video generators, image generators, engine generators, and environment generators, to make them more mathematic and natural accurate, so that we are improving our own intelligible accuracy with artificial intelligence. That is what the nature foundation model is all about. Take a look at this eruption. There must be a reason why it's there. Nature doesn't just generate things because it wants to generate them. It generates because there's a reason to generate them. Some kind of form factors behave on different kinds of form factors, like the plutonic plates behave on this volcano. As a human species, are we always trying to find a solution why something is behaving the way that it is? And that is the problem with world models. It just generates because it wants to generate, but it don't generate because there's a reason to generate. And that is what that's so powerful about nature, that it's just such a large complex system that is actually influencing each other, where millions kinds of form factors is generating this natural experience. What if we use the nature foundation model for representing a digital version of evolution? That is what this next idea is all about, creating a digital representation of evolution for genetic resilience. So evolution is a process where we let the strongest entities survive and the weak ones to die. This is found in all foundations of nature, like human intelligible evolution and plant evolution, to be able to create a more resilient future. So what if we used evolution inside of agentic systems to be able to create more resilient robotics into the future? So an agent is a simulation of a robotic body, where we simulate the robotic form factor of that robotic entity. And what if we place this robot into this simulation, produce multiple pairs of them, and only let the strongest robot survive? That is what this concept is exactly about, to create a more resilient future for robotic intelligence. After this evolutionary talk, let's finally take a look at how it actually is to interact with this nature foundation model. So the goal is to make you feel like you are the god. You are something big and huge. You are the decider and creator of this system. So you decide exactly what shall happen. So there are three different kinds of interactions. First, the chat-based interaction. You type exactly down what you want to happen beforehand and meanwhile. So if this ecosystem is not behaving the way that you expected, can you say produce more entities or take them to a different kind of landscape? The second interaction is the world-based interaction. If an NPC is not behaving the way that you expected, can you go into that NPC body and be able to adjust how that NPC is actually interacting with the world around it? So you can say exactly how this NPC should interact and use your keys on your keyboard to be able to differentiate how this NPC is actually behaving. Further not least, we have the ghost-based interaction, where you're able to fly around in this ecosystem. So you're able to fly around and have this as a playground where you can do anything as you want. So the ghost-based interaction gives you the possibilities to make natural disasters happen that was actually not planned. You just decided without a reason. And that is what this goal-based interaction gives you the possibility for. You can decide exactly where, when, or what shall fall down, and exactly how this ecosystem shall behave over time. So with these three different kinds of ways to interact with this system, are we getting the future of nature foundation models. Moving on from ghost mode to something we call ecosystematic games. Are we able to get a new way for entertainment like never before? Think about Worldcraft, for example. Worldcraft is an experience where you are able to be the godfather of this world and be able to say exactly what events should occur. So you can place exactly some entities exactly where you want them and be able to create natural disasters. That is exactly the power of ecosystematic games of the near future, both for entertainment but also for scientific use cases and three-dimensional learning. On the next slide, I'll be empowering how this model and architecture of the Nature Foundation model is able to improve the future of human intelligence. Try to think about these ecosystematic games as your laboratorium. You are able to learn about nature like never before. If a Nature Foundation model is inspired upon nature, why can't you then use this model to learn about nature? That is exactly what this idea is about, using the ecosystematic games to learn about science itself. We can use these models to be able to understand animal behavior and environmental evolution. This is giving us new ways to learn about science in a new form factor like never before. The second use case is three-dimensional learning. Humans is a species that needs to learn like no other entity on this planet. We are learning through numbers, letters, and symbols to understand the world around us. But three-dimensional learning is the next step, where we are becoming a godlike learning form factor where we are able to learn like never before. So try to look at this cell, for example, how you are able to think and remember all of these different kinds of information. What if you could create a digital ecosystem where you are able to see how these cells actually live in an ecosystem? The delightful thing with Nature Foundation models is that they can simulate more than just what they've been trained on. If they haven't seen an entity before, are they able to generate the life of that entity? And that is what is so special with this model. You are able to scale the Nature Foundation model down to the size of a cell and being able to simulate how these cells actually live with each other. And just try to think about using the augmented reality possibility with three-dimensional learning. You take your smart glasses on, where smart glasses is a glass computer with a screen that represents holograms directly into the human eye to create artificial objects. And then with these smart glasses, are you then able to take this cell ecosystem and being able to get a simulation just onto your environment. You could also get an aquarium, where you are getting an aquarium-based ecosystem of fishes swimming around on your table, and then you can just watch them all day long as you want. That is one of the most delightful things with Nature Foundation models. Through all this talk about the Nature Foundation model and ecosystematic games, why is there not a Nature Foundation model general intelligence when it simulates the core found of nature? A Nature Foundation model shouldn't be misconfused with a Life Foundation model. A Nature Foundation model only simulates that around the life, but it doesn't simulate life itself. To create ecosystems doesn't mean that we simulate the life in these ecosystems. We're just simulating the foundation of ecosystems for how they're functioning, but not actually how it is to be living. So to misconfuse these Nature Foundation models with general intelligence would be one of the worst mistakes ever. As a conclusion, can we say that the Nature Foundation model will revolutionize how it is to be human. It will bring us new ways to learn three-dimensionally like never before, a new way to do scientific discoveries, and to do agentic evolution. Think about how many ways this could empower humanity. And the path there is really interesting, from the world model, to the engine model, to the environmental model, and to that we call the Nature Foundation model. It has been a really delightful episode about the resilience behind the Nature Foundation model. If you enjoy some of my concepts or want to ask me some questions, are you able to join my Discord channel? This is a perfect place if you want to find some people that are visionary that you can communicate with about the future. So join the Discord channel down in the description if you want to be a part of this community. Else said, though, thank you really much for watching, and I wish you a really nice day.